Hello students, welcome back. So this is in continuation with our previous video where we had been studying about the steps in human resources planning. So we had concluded our previous video by studying about labor demand forecast. So we saw what is the importance of labor demand forecast and what are the various techniques that can be utilized for forecasting the labor demand. So now in our current video, we will see the remaining steps in human resources planning. So let us first have a look at labor supply forecast. So what we understand by labor supply forecast here is, uh, in a situation where a vacancy arises, what are the sources of supply from which the company is going to hire candidates and fill that vacant position? So the company should have in its mind from where is it going to search for the sources of candidates for filling up its vacant positions which have occurred in the company. So this plan has to be made well in advance. So there are basically two sources of supply for labor. You have the internal sources of supply and the external sources of supply. So the external sources of supply include the entire labor force out there who are searching for a job. So it may be those people who are unemployed and who are searching for a new job, or it might even be those people who are working for some other company. So now having a look at the internal sources of supply. So before a rule of thumb is basically before a company goes ventures out of its domain and starts searching for people from outside, the company should first try to see whether there are employees who are already working in the company who can be promoted to the position which has come up vacant, or who can be filled in the position which has currently become vacant. So first, the internal sources of supply has to be looked into. Now, the internal sources of supply can be in the form of internal records, HRIS. HRIS is nothing but Human Resource Information Systems. Then you have a little complicated tool known as Markov analysis. And finally, you have succession planning and replacement charts. So what are these internal records? Internal records is nothing but a database, which internal records and HRIS. So Human Resource Information Systems is nothing but a database of the employees who are already working with the organization. Now, this database should include when the when the employee has joined the company, when is his retirement, when is he likely to leave the company, what are his skills, what is his qualification, what are their experiences, what is the employee's career aspirations. All these things have to be updated in the database. If this database is not properly updated, whenever a vacancy arises, the employees who are already working in the company, that is the internal sources of supply, will be overlooked, will be ignored, and instead company may spend extra time and extra costs in looking out for external sources of supply and recruiting people from outside the organization, which is quite an expensive proposition. So internal sources of supply, on the other hand, you do not spend anything much here, and you do not have to waste much time in filling up your vacant positions. So this is the reason why companies need to constantly keep updating their database. And it's not only that, if the company overlooks their internal employees and instead goes out to recruit from external sources, the people who are already working in the organization, who have the competency and who have these skills and abilities, will feel resentful. There will be heartburn for the employees who are already working in the organization because they think that they have been ignored. And obviously, this will become a demotivating factor for that employee. So all these, so to avoid such happenings, the company should constantly keep updating their database. Have a look at the third point given here. We have something known as Markov analysis. As I had already said before, Markov analysis is a slightly complicated tool which is used for HR forecasting. So what is the way in which Markov analysis works is, previously what I spoke to you about internal records and human resource information systems, it just makes a compilation of the skills, qualification, experience, and extra of the employees who are working. They may not, it may not make predictions of the future. On the other hand, Markov analysis, based on the employee, whatever is filled, whatever he has, whatever the company has fed into the database, based on the employee's performance, based on the employee's career aspirations, this tool, Markov analysis, will be able to make predictions for the future. It will be able to make estimations as to which employee is likely to quit the company soon, which employee is likely to be promoted, which employee is likely to be transferred, which employee is likely to be terminated. All these predictions can be made quite accurately by using such advanced tools, which is going to be extremely helpful for the company. Having a look at the fourth point here, something called as succession planning and replacement charts. So what we understand by succession planning is it is something very relevant, especially to the top management. So in the event of an employee from the top management quitting, the company should have in mind a pool of those candidates whom it's likely to position in the top management. So the company should have in mind whom it is planning to put in the top management in the position which has become vacant. Now, it's obviously a very important decision that the company has to make when it comes to succession planning. Now, the person whom you're planning to appoint in the top position, the person whom you're planning to fill the top position, whichever has become vacant because of a retirement or anything, that person should be groomed well, because he's going to head an entire company. If you're choosing a wrong person in the top management, it's going to sink the entire company. So obviously, if you choose a good person only, your company can be steered in a smooth direction. Now, supposing we are choosing a person, that person, a lot of costs goes into grooming that person. So this is the reason why we have to focus a little extra attention while we try to decide whom to fill in the top position, in the position which has come up vacant. So what is the way in which succession planning works? So here we have succession planning and replacement charts. So replacement charts is one of the tools what is used for succession planning. So what happens in a replacement chart is, now many times it happens that a top executive will tell many years in advance before his or her retirement that after so many years a position is going to become vacant. So based on the required skills and competencies required for the position, whatever skills, whatever competencies are required for that position will be mapped, and the existing employees, along with their competencies and along with their skills, if you find an existing employee with the requisite competency and the requisite skill, such employees will be tagged to that position, and whenever the vacancy arises, a decision can be made from this group of employees. And many companies adopt one more strategy. What they will do is, now let us take an example. A company wants to fill the position of a CEO in another 5 years to come from now. So they will choose certain capable managers. Let's say they will choose a marketing manager, or they may choose the not a marketing manager. They may choose the marketing head. They may choose the HR head. They may choose the recruitment head. They may choose the sales head. Then they might choose the finance head. So they might make a committee of all these people who will be an advisor to the CEO. And so apart from the routine work that the marketing head or the HR head or the recruitment head will be doing, the duty of these people is also to act as an advisor to the CEO, a special committee which is formed here. So based on that candidate who's performing the best in terms of the in terms of the advice and the suggestions that they are giving, that best person will be chosen for the CEO's position once the office holder steps down. So this is the way in which replacement charts can work. I've given you 2 sample replacement charts, how a company can frame its replacement charts. So here you have one example here. So in the event of the position of the CEO becoming vacant, there are 3 prospective candidates who can be promoted to that position. So the readiness of that candidate and the eligibility of the candidate is mapped over here. So now let us take, for example, in order to serve in the position of a CEO, a person should have worked for at least 10 years in that company. Now, this person, Jane Smith, has served almost 15 years in the company. So she is ready to occupy the position once the position comes up vacant. Now, John Murphy has worked for just 9 years in the company. So in the event of the position becoming vacant now or in the future, within 1 year, this person will be in a position to occupy the position of a CEO. And similarly, it is for Mike Todd. So same representation has been done for the Vice President of Sales, Vice President of Services, and Vice President of Marketing. So the names which are corresponding to VP Sales are those people who will be eligible for the VP Sales position in case the VP Sales position becomes vacant. This is another sample replacement chart which I have given here. So the example of this replacement chart is such. For a manager's position, there are 2 people who can occupy the manager's position if it becomes vacant. So there is one person known as LB Martinez and another person, an assistant manager known as Gorton and Brown. So alongside them, something called as A1, A2, B1, B3, all these ranks have been given. So what are these ranks is, if you see the key which is given in the right side of this chart, A is saying that they are promotable now. B says that they need development. And 1 says that superior performance, above average, all those things. So for a manager's position, Mr. Green is eligible for the manager's position in such a way where he's promotable now and he has above average performance. Now, when in assistant to manager position, there is not much of a choice. In assistant manager position, a choice is levied over here. So you have Gorton, who is promotable now and has above average performance. And you have TM Brown, who needs development. He's given the key B, and he's also given the key of 3, which means acceptable performance, which means his performance is good, but he needs a little additional training to occupy an assistant manager's position. So obviously we will be able to decide among Gorton and among Brown who can occupy the assistant manager's position. It's obviously Gorton who is having a better grade. He is promotable now and he's having above average performance. So obviously he will be the candidate who will be the preferred candidate to occupy the position of an assistant manager. And in a similar way, for division HR manager, accounting division manager, for all these things also, the people who are eligible and the key associated with them has been given to us. Moving on to the 4th step in human resources planning, you have something known as gap analysis. So what do we understand by gap analysis over here is, based on the forecasting of labor demand, based on the forecasting of labor supply, that is, based on the 2nd step and the 3rd step, a gap analysis will be made. Based on demand forecasting and supply forecasting, we will come to a conclusion. Now, what is that conclusion? We will either understand that the demand is more and the supply is less, which means there are many vacant positions there and there are very skill sets outside from which we can appoint to this position which has come up vacant. Now, there is another situation which can arise. A situation where the supply is more and the demand is less. In a situation where the supply is more, the company can adopt certain strategies here. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Now, in a situation where the supply is excess and the demand is less, this means that there are too many employees and too less work. So you can imagine what decisions the company will be going through. There is too many employees, the company is overstaffed. Now, in such a situation, the first thing that can come to the company's idea is downsizing, because there are too many people, you're overstaffed, so you're spending a little too much extra for those people. You're spending extra in terms of their salaries. Your costs are going up, whereas work is not much. Your company is not getting much projects. Your company is not producing too many products or selling too many products. So obviously, your income is less, expenses are more. So something is not justified over here. So the first thing which comes to the company's mindset is to downsize. In other words, the company may think of laying off many employees, laying off many candidates. But however, this might not be a very wise decision. If the company indulges in mass layoffs, it's going to send a wrong signal out there to the community. Now, what will people think? People will think that maybe this company is not performing well. Maybe this company is running under losses. That's the reason why they are laying off employees. So it's directly going to affect the company's stocks. It's going to directly affect the company's share prices in the share market. And not only that, the reputation of the company might also get affected. Company might find it difficult in the future to raise loans because banks might think that because layoffs has happened, this company is probably not performing very well. And the company might, in future, employees might also be a little doubtful. Skillful employees I'm talking about, very good employees and skillful employees might be feeling a little doubtful about joining the company because of the lack of job security which the company is which the company is not promising. They are not promising job security. So obviously it may demotivate some very skilled people from applying to that company and joining the company. So thereby downsizing might not be the best idea here. Now there are some very interesting alternative arrangements which companies have thought of to avoid a mismatch, to avoid excess supply, avoid overstaffing. So one of the interesting job arrangement which the company has thought out is temporary employment. I can give you one example of IBM over here. See, IBM follows a staffing policy where 10% of its employees are permanently part-time employees. So what do we understand by this? So this is actually called as an oxymoron. What is an oxymoron? You're using two words which are contradicting to each other. But anyway, leaving aside grammar, let's get back to our topic here. So your IBM employs permanently part-time workers. So what happens in this arrangement is, let us say the peak time where IBM gets projects is, let's say, I'm giving you an example, from the month of January to July. IBM gets many projects and its work actually peaks during this time. So that is the time where you will require more number of employees. This is the time where the company, along with the permanent people who are working with IBM, it takes in many part-time employees also to work for IBM for those span of 6 months. At the end of 6 months, from August to December, this is a time where the workload of IBM is quite less. They do not get much projects here. So there is not much work to be done. You obviously do not need too many employees for your company at that time. So this is a time where the company asks the part-time employees to take a break. So now it's only the permanent employees, the full-time employees who are working with the company. Now, once this break period is over, that is the time between August to December, again in the month of January, where the work peaks again, where many projects start flooding the company again, the same part-time employees who were working for IBM before, the same people are asked to rejoin and work for the next 6 months again. So a part-time employee will be working for IBM from January till July. They take a break from August till December. They join back IBM from January to July. So this way, this cycle keeps getting repeated. So in this way, the company IBM manages to balance out the requirement for employees according to the work that it is, according to the work and according to the projects that it is receiving. Now have a look at the last point here. You have something known as job sharing. So many companies, see, there are many companies, like for example, Southwest Airlines. One of the airline operators in United States, they follow a policy where they are not going to indulge in any layoffs. Even at critical situations, Even in situations where the 9/11 attack, where an attack happened in United States in the year 2001. So two aircrafts had rammed against two very important buildings there and caused a lot of, and they rammed against a building which was extremely crucial towards the country's economy, where most of the offices were there and many important high profile employees were there. So it created a lot of losses of lives and losses to the economy also. So when this situation happened, people were really worried about traveling. People lost faith in the airlines itself. So the number of passengers who were traveling reduced. So obviously work was less. The employees were redundant. The airlines did not require so many employees. They were going under losses. They terminated their jobs. Southwest Airlines was the only company which continued to retain the employees in spite of the crisis which was going on out there. So there are many companies which prefer to retain their employees. American Express is another company which again prefers retaining employees rather than asking them to quit during times where the company is facing trouble. Now, so as I already told you, if you retain employees when your company is not having a workload, what happens here is the work for each of these people, there are many employees who may remain idle. So in order to avoid that, the company adopts a job sharing policy where work is distributed. What one person, whatever work he's doing, that work gets distributed among 2 or 3 people. So everyone is doing some work. The only difference is that the load is a bit less. In a time where the company gets extra projects, all the employees get back to their position of doing whatever work was originally assigned to them, and the load of work and the quantity of work what was originally assigned to them, they all get back to doing that thing. During the time where the company is facing a little less number of projects, work will be less. So distribute whatever remaining work is there among all the employees such that all of them are kept busy, and at the same time each of them do not face too much of a workload, and the company does not have to lay off anyone. So these are some interesting strategies which companies use in order to avoid downsizing or laying off or any such termination techniques. Now we have the 5th point here in steps in human resources planning, something known as action programming. So all the 4 points were talking about decisions that the company is making. They are planning and they're making decisions. The 5th point, action programming, is a situation where the company is putting those decisions into action. So it will deploy resources, it will deploy money. This is where actual money is getting spent. This is where people are actually given the work, whatever the HR department is actually given the work, whatever has to be done. So this is where implementation of the decisions take place. Finally, you have control and evaluation. So based on the plans, work is going on now. Whatever work is going on may not go according to whatever was planned. Deviations might occur. So in control, the company will try to look for deviations and will try to correct those deviations here. I'll give you one small example here. Now, let us say the company has given a budget for hiring. Let's say it's given a budget of total 10 lakhs. To hire the candidates, the company has to spend a total of 10 lakhs to hire its candidates. Now, in the process of hiring, we notice that the budget is not 10 lakhs, but instead it is going on to 50 to 20 lakhs. So company immediately takes correct action here. You cannot spend so much for hiring the candidates. So the company probably stops hiring, and instead it may choose some candidates from within the company itself and train them and put them in the vacant position which has come up. So this way some kind of corrective action can be taken. And evaluation. Evaluation means the company is trying to evaluate and appraise certain tasks. So the company will look back and see. Now supposing it has implemented a program, a voluntary retirement program, because of which many people have left the company. Because of this voluntary retirement scheme, which the company has introduced, many employees have quit the company. Now the company will try to look back and try to reflect and try to see what is the effect of voluntary retirement program on the workforce reduction, and what is the effect of voluntary retirement program on the morale of employees. What is the effect of voluntary retirement schemes on the output of the company? So this kind of reflective analysis the company tries to make. And again, evaluation, one more example of evaluation can be the company will try to understand between hiring a new candidate and between training an already existing candidate, which proves to be more costly, which proves to be effective, and which can be implemented for the future. So the main focus of the control and the evaluation, this one step in human resource planning is to look for deviations and correct any deviations now, and evaluation in future make sure the company does not repeat the mistake. So it can be like a learning process for the company. All right. So with this, I would be concluding my today's lecture. In our next video, we will be studying about what qualities an HR manager requires. What do you understand by terms like job analysis? What are the steps to be adopted? What are the ways in which job analysis can be done? So all these array of topics we shall be watching in the next video. Thank you.